to a normal form in order to design a push-down automata for a given context-free grammar. Okay. So last time, and then I have mentioned that there are two types of normal form. Uh, Previous one, I guess it is completed. CNF form, okay. CNF form and Gravec normal form, which is in short, it is written as GNF. So today our class, right, will be discussing about this GNF. And then one more thing, if suppose in exam, right, I'm providing you a context-free grammar, and then I have asked you guys to convert this context-free grammar into GNF form. So what is the procedure for that one means? You need to perform that pre-processing part. I mean reduction. You need to perform the reduction first in order to convert a CFG to GNF. First, you need to perform the reduction process. I mean, removal of useless symbol, unit symbol, and epsilon production. Those things you need to perform. After that, you have to convert this to CNF, and then only you can proceed for conversion of GNF. Okay. That is the procedure. And then today's class, right? I don't want to waste my time because we have already learned how to convert a given CFG into CNF. So I'll select an example which is in CNF form. And then from this CNF to GNF conversion, we are going to see. I'm repeating it again. In exam, if CFG is being provided to us and then asks us to convert it to GNF, you cannot directly convert it from CFG to GNF like that. At starting point, you have to perform the reduction process. After that, you need to convert to CNF, and then only you can proceed for GNF conversion. And then one more thing, I've already mentioned that depending on the production rule of a particular given grammar, the format of the grammar might be differed. So when can we call a context-free grammar as in GNF format means when the production rules following this format, where n is the non-terminal, spelling mistake, I guess you just read it as non-terminal, okay? So n is the non-terminal and a is the terminal, okay? This is the format, and say that particular. Now, one important topic, one important sub part of this GNF conversion. Let me just write it here. Let me use different color for that one. This is known as left recursion. Okay, the sub part, I mean, this particular topic will be a part of this GNF conversion. Will just write like this, left recursion. Now, when can we call that in the given production rule, you have occurred left recursion? Okay, there are many problems we are going to face. One of the problem which we are going to face while conversion of CFG to Grevin normal form, or maybe from CNF to GNF, is left recursion. Now, right now, I'll be writing when can we call a particular production rule as having left recursion means. Let me just write when we come across a production rules of this format, A, alpha, then beta, where A, comma, alpha belongs to non-terminal, and then beta belongs to non-terminal union terminal. Okay, so while performing the conversion from CNF to GNF, right? If you come across such kind of production rule, then it is nothing but left recursion is occurring in there. So how you're saying left recursion means, see here, on the right hand side we have a non-terminal which is represented by capital A, and then again on the right hand side of the production rules, right, starts with the same non-terminal. This is the non-terminal A here. Again, this is also the A here. So if you could find a production rule of such type, then you can conclude that left recursion has occurred. And then if left recursion occurs, then you have to solve it. Okay, you have to solve it. And then what is the disadvantage of having a left recursion kind, please go through by yourself. Definitely in exam, I'll be asking for 2 marks. Okay. So you have to read by yourself. So this is not a good, if you are occurring left recursion, it's not a good sign. So you have to remove that one. So now how to remove that one? Let me just write removal of left recursion. There is a short procedure for removal of left recursion. So that one I'll be writing here. Right now you'll be a little bit confused. I'll be taking one example. In that example, I'll directly utilize this removal of left recursion. At that point, I'll be explaining that one. If you find a left recursion of this kind, then replace it by A replaceable by beta, new non-terminal beta. Then for this new non-terminal, insert alpha, new non-terminal, then alpha. Let it be. Let it be. Whatever I have written here, right? Let it be as it is for the time being. Right now, I'll start taking the example. I'll just start the example. So within that example, I'll explain these things. Okay. So don't worry. Don't worry. Now let me take one example. Convert the following CFG into GNF. Okay. S A B A B S A, then B A. Now see here the example which I have considered here, right? It's CNF, I know, because CNF, it is in CNF format, but see here, the question being asked here is convert the following CFG into GNF. So if the question is being asked like convert the following CNF to GNF, then no need to check for whether the format is in CNF form or reduction process has been performed like that. You need not check like that. But if it is written like convert the following CFG into GNF, then definitely you need to check all those process which I've already mentioned. But right now, this example is CNF, so no need to check for those reduction then converging to CNF and all because it's already in CNF. Now let me start the conversion from the given grammar to GNF form. Now in order to convert this into GNF form, what kind of formats need to be followed? GNF format, let me just recall it again here. When can we call a grammar is in GNF form means if it follows this pattern. Okay, if it follows this pattern, then you can consider this in GNF form. Now, these production rules are not in this format, hence we need to convert it. Now, the step number 1, let me just write step number 1. There are many steps. So step number one, what we are going to do is rename the non-terminal. This is step number 1. Rename the non-terminals. So how to rename this non-terminal means it's up to you, but yeah, like whether you want to use A, B, or C, whatever. So in my case, S will be renamed as A. This is very important. Suffix 1, 2, 3, like that we are going to use. It is very important. A1, and then A will be denoted by A suffix 2. How many non-terminals are here? S, A, then B. Then B will be denoted by A3. Now, after renaming it, right, after renaming the non-terminals, let me just rewrite the production rule. Let me just rewrite the production rule. Now, this will be A1 replaced by A2, A3, and the next one is A2 replaceable by A3, A1, A, and then A3 replaceable by what is there? A3 replaceable by A1, A2, B. This is the first step. Okay, this is the first step. Now this is the first step. And then second step. Now in second step, right, we are going to modify the production rules. We are going to modify the production rules. Now let me just write this step first. Modify, instead of saying grammar, let me just write production rule. Modify the production rule. Modify the production rule. A suffix I and A gamma or A suffix I visible by AJ gamma, where J should be greater than I and gamma belongs to this order of non-terminal. Okay. What we are going to do is, let me just number this one. 1, 2, 3. While renaming the non-terminals, right, I have told that these suffixes are very important. This A1, A2, A3 are very important. Now, we are going to modify these production rules, but how? The modification should be in this format, where J should be greater than I. This value J should be greater than I. Okay, this J should be greater than I. And then if it is not, if suppose like, if J is less than I, if J is less than I, then apply substitution method. Apply substitution method. Okay. Again, don't worry, I have just written like this in short. So step number 2, what we want is, we're going to modify the production rule in this way, where J value should be greater than I. Now let me move back to the step number 1. Let me move back to the step number 1. See here, this is 1, this is 2, this is 2, this is 3, this is 3, this is 1. Okay. Now, as per step number 2, we need to modify the production rules in this manner. Now, see here, production rule number 1 and 2 are supporting this step number 2 format, but production rule number 3 is violating this one. If it is violating like that, then what we need to do is, we have to apply substitution method. We have to apply substitution method. Now, let me apply substitution method, okay? Now let me apply substitution method. Now, which particular production rules is violating step number 2 format is production rule number 3. Now let me just rewrite production rule number 3. Let me rewrite production rule number 3 as it is. Let me write A3 replaceable by A1, A2, terminal B. A1, A2, terminal B. Now I'm going to apply A1 value from production rule number 1. Now let me apply, I won't say apply, substitute A1 value from production rule number 1. Production rule number 1. Now let me write A3, then A2, then B. Okay. Now wherever I find A1, right, I'm going to replace by A2, A3. Wherever I find A1, I'm going to replace that one with A2, A3. I'm going to replace this one with A2, A3. Okay. Now got the point? See here, instead of A1, I have replaced this A1 with A2, A3 from production rule number 1. Okay. Now after applying substitution method, right, still we need to check whether this is in the format which is required in step number 2. Now as per step number 2, again we need to check the value of J and I. This is I, this is J. Now still J is less than 3. Now still J is less than 3. So hence what we need to do is, let me write then step number 2, hence substitute value of A2 from production rule number 2. Okay, from production rule number 2, we are going to substitute this A2 value. But as per production rule number 2, there are two values for A2. So let me just write production rule number 2. So now let me rewrite, let me just call this as 4. Rewrite production rule number 4. Now A3 is replaceable by, let me write A3, A2, and then again A2, A3, A2, B. Don't get confused, okay? There are two values of A2 when I check the production rule number 2, which are A3, A1, and A, which are A3, A1, and terminal A. So let me just write A3, A1, then another value was small letter a. Okay. This is the one after applying substitution rule, we are getting this result. Now let me call this as number 5. Let me call this as number 5. Now again, after applying production rules, right, still we need to check whether any of the production rules are still, violating this step number 2. Now, out of this 3 production rules, right, after modification, or after substitution method, the rules to be considered are reduction. Oh, reduction rules to be considered are 1, 2, 5. 5 is 5. From where I'm getting 5 means 3. Step number 3 was violating step number 2. Production rule number 3 was violating step number 2. In order to solve that violation problem, we perform some substitution, and then at the end, production rule number 5 is being generated. So now from the given 3 production rules, we have another modified 3. Okay. Now again, after this substitution method and all, I need to check whether still this is violating any step number 2 format. This is 3, this is 3. Okay, and this begins with terminal, so this is not violating. Now here comes the problem for left recursion. Okay, here comes the problem for left recursion. So now the place where we are facing left recursion. Now left, let me just write, left recursion occurs in reduction rule number 5. Okay, so let me write A3, A1, A3, A2, A3, A2, V. Now left recursion occurs here. Let me just remind you again, as per the left recursion format, right? Let me go back where I have written in a short manner. See here, if the right hand side and the left hand side of the production rules similar to the left hand starting position of the production rules, then your stating occur. There's a occurring like this. If such kind of left recursion occurs, then you have to remove it. In order to remove that one, you have to follow this pattern. Okay. Now, from my production rules where left recursion is being occurred, I need to identify A, alpha, then beta. Okay. From my production rules where this one left recursion occurs, I need to identify this A, then alpha, then beta. Okay, A, alpha, then beta. So now let me come back. Let me use different color in order to ease your removal of left recursion. Let me just bring down. Let me just copy it and paste it. That way it will be. What is this? It's not happening. Woohoo. I can't bring it. I don't know what happened. Okay, fine, leave it. Let me just rewrite it better. Okay, let me just rewrite it in a smaller manner with different color. Then only you'll able to understand. If not, you won't be able to understand. So let me just write it here. A alpha, beta, I'm not going to describe again, okay? In order to ease your understanding for removal of left recursion. I'm repeating it again here. A dash is nothing but new non-terminal. Okay. Now I have told it from this production rules where the left recursion has occurred, right? We need to identify. The what to say, A, then alpha, then beta. Now let me just identify that one. So in my case, this is A, this is A, and then this is alpha. Then it's up to you whether this or this you would like to choose as beta. So in my case, let me consider this as beta. Okay. Now again, okay, fine. I won't complexify anything. It's up to you. Now I have considered beta like this. Now, in order to remove this left recursion from here, I need to follow this procedure. While following this procedure, we need to introduce a new non-terminal. Okay. Out of for this production rule number 5, we need to generate two more production rules. Okay, in order to remove the left recursion. So let me just number this production rules as 5 because it is still the 5. No change has been occurred here. So let me just write 5.1. Let me just write 5.2. Now, how we are replacing it means A. We need to write A here. In my case, A is A3. And then here, what is this beta? We need to write beta. So let me just we need to write beta. So let me just write beta here. We need to write beta. So let me just beta here. In my case, beta is A, A3, A2. And then after writing beta, I need to introduce one new non-terminal. Now, new non-terminal, right? You can introduce any non-terminal, but the thing is, this the non-terminal where the left recursion occurs, right? The suffix is 3. So you have to introduce the non-terminal in such a way that the new non-terminal will be having the same suffix as A. That's why I have introduced a new non-terminal B3 here. Will of left recursion, we have used A dash to 3. Now, after this, write here beta. So in my case, beta is A3, A2. In order to solve left recursion from this production rules, I have to generate these two more production rules. That I'm writing it right now. Now, after this, first one is done. What about the second one? A dash. In my case, A dash is in my did I save or not? I don't know. Okay, it's here. So now A dash. In my case, A dash is B3. Let me use green color. So in my case, A dash is B3, and then alpha, followed by A dash. Alpha in my case is A1, A3, A2, and then followed by A dash. In my case, B3 is A dash slash alpha. A1, A3, A2. Now, do we need to check the violation of step number 2? Yes, when we need to check the violation of step number 2 is when the non-terminals are of same, when we have same non-terminal, that at that time only we need to check the suffix value J and I. But in here, B is different, E is different, so we need not check that one. So we'll consider this is not violating that one. Okay. Now see here, right now, after performing, let me just write like this. First time for the beginner, it seems to be very, very lengthy, but Once you start understanding the process, it's very easy. Myself also, I'm going very slowly because you should not feel that this is very little bit complex like that. Okay. Now, after removing left recursion, the production rules to be considered are 1, comma 2, comma 5.1, comma 5.2. Okay. Now, once again, let me rewrite all these production rules. Once again, let me rewrite all these production rules. Okay, let me actually, I just want to copy it, but it's not happening. I don't know why. So let me just write it. Let me just write it. A1, A2, A3. Let me just write it. So let me use different color, blue. So production rule number 1. Production rule number 1. I'm just rewriting the previous one. A2, A3. Production rule number 2. A2, A3, A1 dash, then 5.1, 5.1, 5.1, A3, terminal A, A3, A2, A3, A, A3, A2, and 5.2, E3, A1, A2, A3, A1, A3, A2. Now see here. Now the production rules given to us, the production rules where the left friction occurred was this number 5, and then in 5, right, we have left out B. We have left out the terminal B. Okay. Now what we need to do is this particular A3, right? A3, let me write this A3 replaceable by terminal B separately for the time being. Don't get confused, okay? Don't get confused. I'm doing very slowly. If you're confused, please stop me then and there. Okay, I'm writing here like this. I'm going to explain another one. Now, what happened was in the production rule number 5, left recursion occurred in here at A3, and then we tried to solve that left recursion using the left recursion removal format, and then we have generated 5.1 and 5.2. Okay, 5.1 and 5.2. And then now, see here, this terminal B, A3 replaceable by terminal B is being left out. Okay, in production rule number 5, left recursion occurred, and then we have removed left recursion from production rule number 5 completely. After removing that left recursion, 5.1 and 5.2 is being generated. But A3 replaceable by B has been left out. But we should not left out this value also. Even though left recursion being occurred in here, but we should not remove this one. But while removing the left recursion, we have introduced one new non-terminal, which is B3, And then we have to add this terminal B. somewhere in 5.1 or else in 5.2. We have to add this terminal B somewhere in 5.1 or 5.2. Okay, somewhere in 5.1 or 5.2. Now, where to add this one means, now we have to add this one in here. The same terminal B as it is, and then the same terminal B as it is followed by the new non-terminal. Okay, got the point? While solving the left recursion, we have left out this one. This is also another production rules, A3 replaceable by terminal B. Now, while adding this B, right, for this particular production rules, from this, consider this the mother production rules, and then two child has been created from this one. But the part of a mother production rules is being left out. So this, the part of the mother production rules, which is being left out, has to be present in one of the child. So which child we have to add? This one means we have to add in this A3 production rules. The production rules which starts with A3. This starts with A3, the production rules one of the child which starts with A3. There we need to add the left out terminal, but one as this terminal alone, and the another one is the terminal followed by the new non-terminal. Okay, the terminal followed by the new non-terminal has to be added. Now, while writing this 5.1, actually I didn't add these things. I just want to completely write everything, and then what is being left out I have discussed here. I have written in a different color. Now let me completely write this 5.1 B and B3. Now again, let me say something. What was our target? What was our target? Our target was to convert the given CFZ to GNF format. Now, while trying to convert the given CFZ to GNF, right, we have faced certain rules violation. We try to solve those violations. We solve it. Again, while solving those violation problems, we have come across left recursion, and then we solve it. Now, this is the production rule left recursion. After removing all from the given context-free grammar, whether the production rule GNF format, we are going to check it. Whether the production rules is in GNF format or not, we are going to check it. If it is not in GNF form, then you need to convert it. How to convert it means by applying substitution method. Now, as per the definition or as per the rules of the GNF format, it has to be following terminal A followed by series of non-terminal or else single terminal. Now, which are the production rules which are not following this format? This one is not following, this one is not following, this is not following, this is not following, this is already in GNF format, this is not in GNF format. So these three production rules have to be converted to GNF format. This terminal followed by series of non-terminal, terminal followed by series of non-terminal, this is terminal alone, this is terminal followed by non-terminal. Okay. Now let me try to modify production rule number 1. Now let me say apply substitution method. Substitution method. Okay. Now out of this 1 to 5.2, let me substitute A2. Let me apply substitution method on production rule number 2. Okay. Now you will come to know why I'm targeting production rule number 2 first. Okay. You'll come to know. Now let me write production rule number 2. Production rule number 2 using rule number 5.1. Now let me write A2 replaceable by how many values are there for A3? 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me write A1, and then let me write A1 here. Then let me write A1. Let me write A1, then A. Now, wherever the space I have written, right, I'm going to write the A3 values. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So let me start filling it A, terminal A, then non-terminal A3, non-terminal A2, non-terminal B2, terminal A, non-terminal A3, non-terminal A2, terminal B, terminal B, and V3. Okay. Now in production rule number 2, what I did using production rule number 5.1, I've substituted A2 by this. Now let me mark this one as 6. Okay, let me mark this one as 6. Now, now this 2 has been converted to GNF form. Okay. Now let me apply substitution method on production rule number production rule number production rule number 1 using rule number 6. Okay, now let me just write what about production rule number 1. 1A1, let me just write A1 replaceable by A2, A3. A2, A3. How many A2 values are here? I mean, derivatives are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is A3. So let me just write A3. Let me just write A3, 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 A3. Okay, and then let me use different color. Now, wherever I find, instead of A2, right, need to write this whole for this A2, right? A, A3, non-terminal B2, non-terminal A1. Terminal A, non-terminal A3, non-terminal A2, non-terminal A1, terminal B, non-terminal A1, terminal B, non-terminal B3, non-terminal A1, and terminal A. Now let me mark this as 7. Now, production rule number 1 was not in GNF form. Now this has become GNF format to production rule number 7. Okay. Now, which are the production rules which are not in GNF format? It was 1, 2, then 5.2. Now, let me perform substitution method. Now, apply substitution method. Now, apply substitution method on rule number 5.2 using rule number 7. Rule number 7. Now, let me just, how many values for A1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are two are there. So for this place, for this A1 also, we should replace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and keep it. For this A1 also, you have to write this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So now let me write it. Let me write it. Wait, I shouldn't write here. So let me write it. Let me write it. B3, And then let me write the A1 value first because it's going to be a lengthy one. See, B3, then A1. Let me write all the A1 value first. And then I need to leave some space for this. So let me write A1 value from this terminal A, non-terminal A3, non-terminal A2, non-terminal B2, non-terminal A1, non-terminal A3, and then I need to leave some space. Terminal A, A3, A2, A1, A3, then B, A1, A3, then B, B3, A1, A3, leave some space, A, A3, this. Okay, let me complete this portion first. Let me complete this part first. So for this one, right, let me use remaining A3, A2, B3. 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 Oh, A3, A2, B3. A3, A2, B3. Okay. Now again, same thing has to be repeated for this remaining part. Another A1 is present here. So let me write the A1 values. You should not confuse. This is different. This is different. Different in the sense for another part. So let me write this A1 value first. So let me write this A1 value first. A non-terminal A3, A2, B3, A1, A3, then some space, A, A3, A2, A1, space, let me write B, A1, A3, B, B3, A1. Okay. Now, let me write the remaining part, which is A3, A2. A3, A2. A3, A2. A3, A2. A3, A2. I guess one part is being missed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. One is being left out. A, A3, A2, B2. This is here. A, A3, A2, A1, A3 here. B, A1, A3 is here. Okay, this one is left out. Let me just write A3, A2. Don't get confused, okay? Go back and then just check it once again. Oh, it's here. A3, A2. No. Totally, how many values? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, A1 values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one value is missing. A1 values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 is missing. So let me just write A3, A2, 2, A3. Okay, go back and let me just number this one as number 8. Now, the required GNFR, let me use this, 5.2 now has become the GNF form in this one. Okay, now the required GNF are 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, comma 7, comma 5.5.1, 5.1, comma 8. You should not write like this. Okay, in exam you have to rewrite this. Now let me remind you in short. Let me remind you in short. Let me summarize this in short from the beginning. So now at the beginning, I have considered one example for converting a CFD into GNF format. And then before I proceed with GNF format, I have checked whether the given CFD is in CNF form or not. This is in CNF form. Hence, after this, I'll be following the step number 1 for conversion of GNF. In step number 1, what I did, whatever the non-terminals present in the given GFG, I have renamed them with suffix system A1, A2, A3 like that. I have renamed them. After renaming it, I have rewritten the production rules. The production rules are 1, 2, 3. And then step number 2, what happened? All these 3 production rules has to be following this format where J value should be greater than I. If it is not happening, then you have to solve it by applying substitution method. So when I check it, production rule number 3 was not following this format. So by applying substitution method, I have solved that problem. So the problem which I have faced in production rule number 3 is being solved finally with this production rule number 5 being generated. Now, after solving that step number 2 violation, right, again we came across left this one of the child begins or the name similar with mother production rules. And then you have to attach, while attaching the terminal, you have to attach the terminal as it is separately, and then the terminal followed by the new non-terminal also. So instead of 3 production rules, we have 4 production rules after removing all the violation of step number 2, then left recursion, and also 1, 2, 5.1, 5.2. They are being listed in here. They are listed without any obstacle. Now the final target is we have to convert this into this format and replaceable by terminal, single terminal followed by series of non-terminal or else singly terminal itself. So when I check the production 1, 2, 5.1, 5.2, production rule number 5.1 is in GNF form. Other than this, others are not in GNF form, which needs to be modified. So how to modify that one means by applying substitution method. By applying substitution method, now A2, this one, this side, right? Let me just use it. Now these are all in GNF form. Terminal followed by series of non-terminal, terminal followed by series of non-terminal, terminal followed by non-terminal. Okay, again, these are also in GNF form. These are also in GNF form. And these are our required GNF. Okay, so please go back and check for once. And many examples are there. Please try it out. It's lengthy but easy. It's lengthy but easy. So today I'm ending the class in here. Okay, bye. Thank you.